Most people waste their lives not because they lack time, but because they do not truly live in the time they have. They drift through the years as if life were a rehearsal for something greater to come, postponing their existence for a future that never arrives. They occupy themselves with distractions, possessions, and roles that shield them from the discomfort of self-confrontation. In truth, what they fear most is not death, but meeting the person they could have been. You cannot stop wasting your life until you face the fact that you are not yet whole. Beneath the persona you show to the world lies the shadow, the unacknowledged parts of yourself you avoid, repress, or deny. Every time you flee from your shadow, you betray your own potential. To live fully, you must turn inward into the dark forest of your unconscious and retrieve the parts of yourself you have abandoned. This is the task of individuation, to become the complete, authentic self you were meant to be, not the mask that pleases others. A wasted life is one lived entirely according to the expectations of others. Many spend their years climbing ladders only to discover they were leaning against the wrong wall. You must have the courage to ask yourself, whose life am I living? If your choices are shaped more by the desire to fit in than by the call of your own soul, you are not truly alive. The path to meaning often demands that you break from the crowd and walk alone. Solitude is not isolation, it is the crucible where you discover who you are when no one is watching. To stop wasting your life, you must also confront the illusions that keep you asleep. The greatest of these is the belief that you have infinite time. This illusion breeds procrastination, mediocrity, and a quiet resignation to routines that drain your spirit. The clock is always ticking, and every day spent in avoidance is a day stolen from your true purpose. You must live as if you were already at the end, asking yourself, if today were my last, would I be proud of how I spent it? But purpose does not reveal itself to those who seek comfort above all. It emerges when you are willing to confront pain, uncertainty, and the unknown. Meaning is not handed to you by the world. It is forged within you through struggle, sacrifice, and the honest engagement with your own depths. The unlived life within you will haunt you until you begin to live it. If you wish to stop wasting your life, turn inward, confront your shadow, listen to your soul, and have the courage to live by its truth, even when the world disapproves. Only then will you exchange existence for life and time for meaning. The first step in ceasing to waste your life is to face the shadow, that hidden half of yourself you have spent years avoiding. Most people imagine themselves as wholly good, virtuous, and consistent, but this is only the carefully polished mask they present to the world. Beneath it lies the collection of instincts, desires, fears, and impulses they have deemed unacceptable, shaped by years of social conditioning and personal denial. This shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply the parts of you that were never allowed to live. It contains both your darkness and your unrealized strength. Every time you turn away from it, you diminish yourself, because in rejecting the shadow, you reject half of your own being. The world teaches you early to push certain traits into the shadows: the aggression that could defend you, the ambition that could elevate you, the vulnerability that could connect you to others. These exiled parts do not disappear. They sink into the unconscious, where they wait, influencing your behavior from behind the curtain. When you fail to acknowledge them, they find their way into your life through projection. You see in others the qualities you refuse to see in yourself. You call someone arrogant without recognizing the pride in your own heart. You condemn another's selfishness while ignoring the ways you act from self-interest. In this way, the shadow governs you precisely because you will not look at it. The waste of life comes from this unconscious enslavement. To live without facing your shadow is to live in fragments, forever chasing completeness but never attaining it. The shadow must be confronted not with judgment, but with curiosity. You must have the courage to descend into the inner darkness, to look upon the traits you were taught to fear or hate, and to ask what they truly are. Often you will discover that what you thought was your enemy is, in truth, a hidden ally. The aggression you were told to suppress may be the very force that could protect your boundaries. The selfishness you condemned may be the seed of the self-respect you lack. The ambition you buried out of shame may be the fire that could lift you out of stagnation. Integration does not mean acting out every shadow impulse. It means recognizing its existence, understanding its purpose, and giving it a conscious place in your life. In doing so, you recover the energy you once spent on repression, and you become more whole, more grounded, and less at the mercy of unconscious drives. The man who has faced his shadow cannot be so easily manipulated by guilt, shame, or fear, because he knows these forces within himself and does not run from them. And in this wholeness, life begins to feel different, no longer a series of evasions and performances, but a unified expression of who you are in truth. When you have the courage to meet the darkness inside you, you also unlock the light it was guarding. To stop wasting your life, you must break the persona, the carefully constructed mask you wear to meet the world's expectations. From childhood, you learned that certain behaviors brought approval while others brought rejection, and over time, you built an image of yourself designed to be acceptable, likable, and safe. This image becomes so convincing that you begin to mistake it for your true identity, forgetting that it is only a fragment of who you are. The persona is not inherently wrong. It allows you to navigate society without constant conflict. But when you become entirely identified with it, you begin to live for the applause of others instead of the call of your own soul. You choose careers, relationships, and habits not because they are true to you, but because they fit the role you believe you must play. This is the silent tragedy of conformity. You can spend decades succeeding in a life that was never yours to live. The danger is that the persona feels safe. It keeps you from criticism, protects you from rejection, and spares you the anxiety of standing apart. But in exchange, it demands that you suppress the parts of yourself that do not fit the script. Your wildness, your unconventional desires, your deeper questions about meaning, all are edited out to keep the performance intact. The result is a life that may be outwardly smooth, but inwardly hollow. Breaking the persona does not mean abandoning all social roles or becoming reckless in your authenticity. It means becoming aware of the mask and refusing to let it dictate your choices. It requires you to pause and ask, am I doing this because it is truly mine to do, or because it will make me look good? Am I speaking this truth because it is real to me, or because it fits the image I want to maintain? Every time you choose truth over performance, the mask weakens. The process is uncomfortable, for the persona will fight to survive. It has been your shield for years, and removing it exposes you to the raw air of reality. People may be unsettled by the change, for they have grown accustomed to the role you play. Some will withdraw because the real you does not serve their expectations as the false you once did. Yet this shedding is necessary, for only when the mask falls can your authentic self breathe. And with that breath comes clarity. You see which parts of your life are genuine and which were constructed for display. You begin to act not from the fear of disapproval, but from the deeper knowing of what aligns with your soul. The cost of keeping the persona intact is the slow death of your inner life. The reward of breaking it is freedom, and in that freedom, the wasting of life comes to an end. One of the most subtle ways people waste their lives is by living as if time were an endless resource. They postpone their passions, defer their dreams, and delay the conversations that matter because they believe there will always be a better moment. This illusion of infinite time is perhaps the most dangerous comfort of all, for it numbs you into thinking you can afford to wait. You cannot. Life is not a rehearsal, and every day that passes is one you will never touch again. Death is the shadow that walks beside you from the moment you are born, yet most live as though it follows at a great distance. They push their real lives into the hazy category of someday, assuming they will start living fully when circumstances improve, when they have more money, when they feel ready. But someday is a word that has stolen more lives than death itself, for it allows you to waste the present while dreaming of a future that may never arrive. The truth is that time is moving through you constantly. You are not simply in time, time is in you, shaping your body, altering your mind, bringing you closer to the end with every breath. To awaken from this illusion, you must begin to live with the awareness that each moment is both fleeting and final. Imagine that today is your last day, not as a morbid fantasy, but as a lens through which to see what truly matters. If you knew that the conversation you avoid might be your final chance to speak, would you still withhold your words? If you knew this hour was the last in which you could create something meaningful, would you still surrender it to distractions? Confronting the finiteness of life sharpens your vision. The trivial falls away, and what is essential stands clear. This is not meant to fill you with fear, but to strip away the arrogance that time will wait for you. It will not. And the paradox is that when you accept your time is limited, you begin to live more fully. You stop postponing joy until the perfect moment and start finding it in imperfect ones. You stop chasing validation from others and start chasing what makes you feel alive. You realize that a day spent in alignment with your soul's calling is worth more than a year spent sleepwalking through routines. The life that is wasted is the one that assumes tomorrow will come. The life that is lived is the one that acts as though today is the only certainty. When you carry this truth within you, procrastination loses its grip, distractions lose their charm, and the illusion of infinite time dissolves into the urgency of living now. To stop wasting your life, you must commit yourself to the lifelong process of individuation, the becoming of your complete and unique self. Most people believe they already know who they are, but in reality, they are living in fragments, part inherited from their family, part shaped by culture, part borrowed from the people they admire or fear. They mistake this patchwork for identity, yet it is only the surface layer. Beneath it lies the deeper self, the one that carries your true nature, your untapped potential, and the path that is uniquely yours. Individuation is the work of uncovering this self, integrating all the disparate parts of your psyche, both the light and the shadow, into a coherent whole. It is not about becoming perfect or free of flaws. It is about becoming real. The world will try to seduce you into abandoning this path. It will offer you ready-made identities, safe roles, and simple answers, because a person who truly knows themselves is harder to control. The journey of individuation demands that you refuse these easy templates and instead listen to the quiet, often inconvenient voice of your own soul. It asks you to confront contradictions within yourself, to acknowledge the parts you would rather disown, and to harmonize them rather than deny them. This is not comfortable work. You will face internal conflicts that challenge your beliefs about who you are, and you will have to surrender the comfort of being understood in order to remain true to yourself. Yet, every step you take toward wholeness makes your life less wasted, because you are no longer living on borrowed terms. Individuation also requires courage to step outside the collective current. Society prefers uniformity because it keeps the machinery running smoothly. The individuated person disrupts this by acting from an inner authority rather than external approval. This may lead to periods of solitude, even alienation, but solitude in service of the self is fertile. It is the space in which you can hear your own thoughts without interference. As you move deeper into individuation, you begin to see that meaning does not come from fitting in, but from living in alignment with your own psychological truth. You make choices not because they are popular, but because they are yours. And slowly, the pieces of your life begin to fit together with a sense of inevitability, as if they were always meant to be this way. A wasted life is one spent living as a copy. A meaningful life is one spent becoming the original you were born to be. Individuation ensures that when your time is done, You leave behind not an imitation of what the world wanted, but the unmistakable imprint of who you truly were. Most people squander their existence in the pursuit of comfort, mistaking ease for fulfillment. Comfort seduces you with its promise of safety, but it demands a silent bargain. It dulls your hunger for growth, numbs your instinct for challenge, and slowly erodes your connection to meaning. A life spent seeking comfort above all is a life spent avoiding the very conditions that give rise to purpose. You cannot discover what you are capable of while staying only where it feels pleasant, predictable, and controlled. Purpose does not emerge in the absence of difficulty. It is born from your confrontation with it. The moments that shape you most are not the ones when everything went according to plan, but the ones where you were forced to face uncertainty, to endure hardship, to stand in the presence of your own fear, and still move forward. This is why people who have known true struggle often speak with a depth absent in those who have only known ease. They have been tempered like steel and fire. They have seen that meaning is not found in avoiding pain, but in giving that pain a direction. If you live only to be comfortable, you live in retreat from your own life. You trade the vast terrain of possibility for a small, padded cell in which nothing new can enter. And though you may avoid certain kinds of suffering, you invite another form, the quiet misery of stagnation, the restless sense that something vital is missing, even when all your needs are met. To stop wasting your life, you must be willing to step beyond the walls of comfort into the territory where growth is possible. This does not mean chasing suffering for its own sake. It means choosing the kind of struggles that are worthy of you. Struggles that stretch your abilities, deepen your character, and force you to engage with life at its most real. The artist suffers for the vision they are bringing into the world. The parent sacrifices for the future they are shaping. The seeker endures uncertainty for the truth they are pursuing. In each case, the discomfort is not a punishment. It is the crucible in which something greater is forged. When you stop measuring your days by how pleasant they are and start measuring them by how meaningful they are, your life changes shape. You begin to value the hard conversations, the risks, the failures, because you see they are not detours but the very road to purpose. Comfort will still have its place, but it will no longer be the master you serve. And in breaking that dependence, you will find a different kind of comfort. The quiet peace that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with the deepest truth of who you are. That peace is the reward of a life no longer wasted. A life is wasted when it is lived only on the surface, when the depths of the psyche remain unexplored and the unconscious is left unintegrated. Most people are content to drift through existence guided by impulses they do not understand, shaped by forces they have never named. They believe they are making choices freely, yet those choices are often the echo of hidden complexes, unhealed wounds, and patterns inherited from generations before them. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is not merely a storage room for forgotten memories, but an active, living dimension of the mind that shapes our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors whether we acknowledge it or not. To ignore it is to live as a puppet whose strings are pulled by unseen hands. The tragedy is that the unconscious will not remain silent simply because you refuse to look at it. It will speak in symbols, in dreams, in sudden irrational emotions, in the persistent repetition of mistakes you thought you had moved past. Life will place before you the same challenges again and again, each time with a different mask, until you are willing to ask, "What in me is drawing this into my path?" This is why unexamined lives feel cyclical, trapped in loops of frustration or failure. They are lived under the governance of forces that the conscious mind has never dared to confront. To stop wasting your life, you must summon the courage to descend into your own depths. This descent is not an act of morbid self-obsession, but of liberation. By exploring the unconscious, through dreams, through active imagination, through honest self-reflection, you begin to bring its contents into the light of awareness. Each fragment integrated is one less hidden force shaping your life without your consent. You begin to recognize the shadow, the parts of yourself you have denied or rejected, not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as an essential part of your wholeness. The traits you condemn in others often point to the unclaimed aspects of your own being, and by acknowledging them, you dissolve their power to control you from the dark. This work demands patience, for the unconscious is not a realm that reveals itself all at once. It speaks in hints, in images, in feelings that cannot be explained logically but must be felt. You will encounter fears, resentments, and desires you wish were not yours. Yet each time you face them honestly, you reclaim more of your energy, more of your freedom to choose. Without this work, you remain half-formed, a stranger to yourself, chasing goals that do not belong to you and wondering why fulfillment never comes. But when you integrate the unconscious into the conscious mind, your choices become truly your own. You are no longer merely reacting, you are creating, and in that shift, life ceases to be something that happens to you and becomes something you actively shape. That is the difference between a wasted life and a fully lived one. A life is wasted when it is lived without a central purpose, when each day is merely a reaction to circumstances, rather than a deliberate step towards something greater. Most people drift like leaves on the wind, blown here and there by the demands of others, the trends of the moment, and the expectations imposed upon them since childhood. They confuse activity with direction, filling their days with tasks and distractions, yet moving nowhere in particular. Without a unifying aim, even the most impressive achievements feel hollow, because they are not anchored to the deeper truth of who you are meant to become. Carl Jung understood that meaning is not given to you by the world. It is something you must discover and live out from within. This is why he spoke of individuation, the process of becoming the person you truly are, rather than the person you were told to be. Purpose is not a slogan you choose at random. It emerges from listening to the voice of the self, the totality of your being, beneath the noise of the ego. This requires solitude, self-examination, and the willingness to ignore the applause of the crowd when it does not align with your inner compass. It is far easier to conform, to follow the well-lit path others have walked before you, but comfort in conformity comes at the cost of your soul's unique calling. Living with purpose is not simply about setting goals. Goals can be empty if they are disconnected from meaning. Purpose is the axis around which your life turns. It is the reason you are willing to endure difficulty, the standard by which you measure what is worth your time and what must be refused. Without it, you say yes to everything and no to nothing, scattering your energy until you are left with little more than fatigue. But when you know your purpose, every no becomes an act of protection for what truly matters, and every yes becomes a conscious investment in the life you are building. Purpose also gives structure to suffering. Pain without meaning breeds despair, but pain in service of something you believe in becomes endurance, even transformation. A craftsman works through the frustration of imperfect attempts because the vision matters more than the comfort of stopping. A parent sacrifices time, money, and sleep because the future they are nurturing matters more than their immediate ease. Purpose turns obstacles into steps rather than walls. To stop wasting your life, you must have the courage to ask what you truly want your existence to stand for, not what will make you admired, not what will keep you safe, but what will make your life, when it ends, feel like it was lived fully and without regret. Without this inner anchor, you will be pulled endlessly by the tides of the world, and in the end, you will find you have arrived somewhere you never chose to be. But with it, you walk with intention. You shape your life rather than letting it shape you, and that is the only way to live without waste.